Path of Exile 2. Alrighty then, let's talk about Path of Exile 2. My first impressions, it's a hell of a ride so far. The game oozes potential. From the moment I booted it up, it gave me that sweet loot chasing vibe we all love. The developer, Grinding Gear Games, made a terrific job on this one. The gameplay feels smooth, the visuals pop even on my potato PC, and there's a lot to unpack here. Anywho, let's dive in and break this beast down piece by piece. Legacy, what's new? Path of Exile 2 doesn't just slap a 2 on the box and call it a day. Oh no, they have taken almost every system from the original game and either polished it, improved it, or straight up overhauled it. Movement mechanics, now there's a dodge roll that feels straight out of a Souls-like game. It's a game changer and it adds depth to the combat that will demand more critical thinking of you. Strategical positioning and timing are two things that you need to nail down if you want to get things right. Talent 3, it's still massive, more on that later, but it feels more refined or streamlined. It's simpler but still complex. Does that make sense? No. Moving on. Combat, smoother, more responsive, and packed with oomph. Things like a different feel here, and I'm not sure I can convey this properly, but you get a feeling that everything has weight to it. This type of sensation is easier to be conveyed on a third-person game or those with, the over-the-shoulder perspective. On an ARPG is baffling how they achieve this. You can also interact with the environment. Once more, tomato out of 10 for the results. There's even full controller support that works like a charm, and they've also added new character classes, which are now 12 in total, including 6 new ones like the Druid and the Monk. All in all, it feels like the devs didn't want to just iterate, they wanted to bring something more. Story. Don't expect Shakespeare. Not gonna sugarcoat it, the story is basic. Evil overlord guy sentences you to death, you swear vengeance, rinse and repeat. It's fine, it serves the gameplay. This isn't The Last of Us, okay? It's a game about smashing baddies and grabbing their shiny gear. And the plot does just enough to justify your carnage. You don't need deep lore living rent-free in your brain while you're busy being an unstoppable murdering machine like my husband, Duke Nukem, obliterating everything in sight. Gameplay. Smooth and satisfying. Gameplay is where Path of Exile 2 truly shines. Combat, it's punchy, responsive, and the new dodge roll adds a layer of strategy that, as I said before, makes your positioning a critical skill in battle. Some abilities have a wound up, so you need to time stuff right, but not in a way that it feels detrimental. Instead, it gives you some satisfaction as you watch the effects go out. Boss fights, unique and varied. Each one feels different, forcing you to adapt. There are now 50 bosses during early access and 50 more promised to be added when the project is finished. They're really unique. The movements, the mechanics, everything makes each one stand out. They are difficult and you're gonna die to them quite a bit. You're gonna wanna change your spec and return to some previous zones and grind some levels maybe and gear before you attempt them again. Also, you can reset your specs just by paying a bit of gold, which is a massive win. It encourages you to experiment and try making your own builds instead of following the meta or a certain predefined best build. The world. The maps are enormous. You need around an hour just to cross from one edge to the other. Multiplayer? Yeah, I could play with friends if I had any. Yeah, jokes apart, yeah, it supports multiplayer and you can co-op. Yeah, it's an online game, so duh, it should be pretty fun for you guys. Multiplayer co-op in these types of ARPG games tend to give you a very different experience from playing solo. So for those of you who can, please do yourselves a favor and experience this. The game we live in feature couch co-op. There's also an endgame procedurally generated zone called the Atlas. I simply adore procedurally generated stuff in this type of games because it provides some constant novelty when I feel like I'm stuck on a loop of grinding. It's the kind of gameplay that hooks you, keeps you up until 3 a.m. and then it makes you say, okay, just one more dungeon. Graphics, potato approved. Let's talk visuals. The game looks awesome, especially for someone like me whose PC is about as powerful as a toaster. Props to the guys working on optimization on this thing. They obviously did a stellar job here. Banana out of 10. The environments are detailed, the lighting is fantastic, and the character models look great. Art style and zone variety, a dark delight. This is dark fantasy done right, okay? And right now, I feel like I'm talking like Donald Trump, like, this is great, okay, this is gonna be fantastic, but hear me out. The art direction feels inspired, and each zone brings something fresh to the table. Speaking of zones, so far we have our standard grim forest with its open fields, enshrouded in mist and gloomy vibes, the classic starter zone for an ARPG, as we should expect, okay? Does the job just right to set the tone. But later on, we'll head to a desert, and the third zone is a jungle, for now. Remember, this is just early access. More will be added later. Enemies, unique designs that keep things interesting. We all can agree that action RPGs rely a lot on how the combat feels. But, and that's a big but, I cannot lie. What the birds can do. A great deal of it depends on how the enemies look and feel. This is a thing often overlooked because most consider them just as part of the visual design, but the animations, the way a monster swings its arms to attack, their movement speed, their telegraphs, that's all combat, baby. Regarding bosses, every fight feels like its own puzzle. It's early access, so there aren't a ton of zones yet, but that's what's there, it's impressive. Difficulty, choose your path wisely. The campaign strikes a nice balance, at least for those who are good at it. I mean, for me, it was pretty hard. But that's because I have the reflexes of a snail. The only difficulty mode you have in early access is challenging, which is daunting for me. It's naturally challenging from the get-go. Okay, it can be punishing, especially when you hit the end game. That's when things ramp up and smack you in the face. Pro tip, study your talent tree. It's not like choosing the right path can mean the difference between smooth sailing and rage quitting, but Path of Exile apparently made it in a way that's more forgiving and you're less likely to screw up, but still, it's immense. On top of that, there's no tutorial for most of the mechanics. Some people think it's cool, but I don't like it very much. But yeah, again, I know there are those of you who love to find this sort of sayings for yourself, so I hope you have yourselves a blast, I guess. The Passive Tree, a Maze of Madness. Speaking of the talent tree, it's massive, intimidating even. My tiny bird brain can't fully grasp it yet, but hey, that's an Amy problem, not a game problem, right? This tree is iconic in the PoE series, and you know what you're signing up for. It's basically a staple of the game by now. If you're new, prepare to feel overwhelmed. I know that some people like it and see this as one of the defining features of the game. They think it's good, and that's totally fine. me personally, this is one thing that I don't like much, and as I stressed before, this is just personal opinion, but I don't like the feeling of being overwhelmed with game systems. It bothers me the fact that I'm gonna need to read some wiki or search websites for builds, otherwise I'm gonna screw up. The sheer amount of passives here gives me FOMO. There are many other systems to master on top of the skill tree and the passive tree. You also have the Atlas tree, Ascendancy tree, the equipment loadout, and the gems. For those who like this type of intricacy, complexity, and highly specific optimization, and it's a treat for you. I'm not one for min-maxing, but I can see the appeal, okay? This is also a staple of Path of Exile franchise, so people who jump in expect this. So that's not a negative, it's the way the game's supposed and expected to be. Early access, polished but not perfect. For an early access game, Path of Exile 2 is shockingly polished. The good, solid mechanics, gorgeous visuals, and smooth gameplay. The bad, minor bugs, clunky UI in spots, and some immersion-breaking quirks. The ugly, stuttering. Could be my PC, but it's worth noting. Spoiler, it's my PC. It's early access, so cut it some slack. They'll iron out the kinks before launch. Hopefully. Monetization, cosmetic only. Here's the deal. Monetization will be purely cosmetic. No pay-to-win nonsense. Also, everything you bought in Path of Exile 1 carries over to this game. Why? I have no idea, but I'm not complaining and no one is. That's just plain awesome. I just hope that strategy works for them and makes the game an even bigger success. Final game, free to play. Yep, the full release will be free to play. You don't need to spend a dime unless you want early access or fancy skins. Just be prepared for the inevitable server chaos on launch day. It's free, so you know the servers are gonna implode. Final thoughts? Path of Exile 2 is shaping up to be a stellar sequel. It's not just good, it's great. The gameplay hooks you, the visuals impress, and the movements and improvements over the original are obvious. Sure, it has a few rough edges, but that's expected in early access, right? Would I recommend it? Absolutely. If you don't want to buy it in early access, but I believe everyone, and I mean literally everyone, should try this game after it releases for free. My hopes is that their business model proves successful. I'd love to see more games with this level of polish taking this free-to-play route without being either a gacha freak show or one of those anime shining, sparkling, pay-to-win shit. We're all sick of those. It's a breath of fresh air seeing an honest, well-done, straightforward, good freaking online game coming out without a subscription mode or some time of predatory monetization that makes it impossible for you to enjoy without feeling that you're being ripped off. Well, I don't want to turn this into a rant. Okay, so I'm gonna stop myself here. And before I wrap this up, another prediction that I dare make is that this one will surely, and I mean surely, go down as one of the best ARPGs of all time. It's not rocket science, it has everything it needs to be one. It'll be right there on top of any list forever, like Diablo. If you watched this till the end, thanks for the audience. Do I still say this, audience? It feels old. Thanks for watching. Please, pretty please, if you like this video, don't forget to like it. And also, please subscribe to my channel because it helps me a lot. If you want, of course, I'm not your mom. Anyway, thank you and see you on the next one. Bye.